Peace. You already know who it is. Amun Asheranu. We back in here once again. Reporting from asheranu.com. What's up, Grin? So I apologize for the last time. I know we just tried to go live, but I received a phone call. I had to take a phone call, so I apologize for that. But we back in. Sounds good now. Yeah. So yeah, I found out what the problems. I was receiving a phone call, so it just shut all this down. So that's what it was. So I had to take the phone call. We good now. So we should be able to skate through this with no problem. Hopefully, if everything goes proper. So let's get back to it. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for joining the YouTube membership. So of course I have a community tab for the public, then I have a community tab for the members. So I'll be putting more detailed, yes, yeah, we're back in here. I'll be putting more detailed videos into the membership section as well. But I just wanted to cover the overall basis here. So one of the members asked me to get into more detail about the 72 lesser keys of Solomon. So that's what we'll do now. So in terms of the 72 lesser keys of Solomon, just going back to what I was saying before, I'll just reiterate everything I said because I didn't really get into anything just yet, right? What's up, Anthony? Peace to Anthony. Peace to Dank Wizard. Peace to Juice Girl. Peace to Grin. Hades. You know what I mean? All the Dark Lords. You know what I mean? So I realize, like, depending on how I title these videos, you know, it draws a certain type of person, right? But you know, most of the time I'm doing the dark videos. It's not necessarily because, you know, I prefer these type of videos. This is just what it is. This is just what the power is, right? So I don't want to just sell you guys bullshit. What's up, Juan? I admire your wisdom. Salute to you. I appreciate the support. You know what I mean? It's always an even exchange. I wouldn't be here without everyone participating, liking, subscribing, supporting. I wouldn't be here because it's a collective experience. So that's why I want to always come and give of myself, because every time I come in, it's always people that watch. So it's all, you know, so a lot of people are stopping what they're doing just to watch what I got to say. So I always appreciate it. So that's why I always want to lay down this wisdom as the best that I can, right? So it's always an even exchange. I look at everybody as even, right? So we're going to continue the lesser keys of Solomon. So first and foremost, Solomon represents carbon, right? And we know carbon to represent the 666. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, right? Somehow we understand that became negative, even though we know carbon is everywhere. There's carbon in trees, there's carbon in the human vessel, there's carbon in anything that has color has carbon, right? So there's carbon everywhere. So there's nothing necessarily negative about carbon. However, when we think about the 666, it's deemed negative and wicked and demonic. Anytime you study anything ancient, anything pre-religion is dark, sinister, wicked, and demonic. However, we know that to not be the case. We know that this is all the doings of religion. And what I mean by that is the whole study of demonology comes from a Christian perspective, for those who may not know that. So whenever you are studying demonology and all these demons look crazy and they have all these crazy shapes and forms, this is all coming from a Christian perspective. So this is a Christian priest and the Christian priestess that are pretty much letting us know about all this demonic energy. So this isn't coming from the original source. This is coming from interpreters. So they are interpreting what they think it represents and what they think it means. So even though the Goetia has all these crazy forms, that does not mean that that's how they will appear to you or that's how you have to work with them. So just making that point clear. So whenever we are dealing with anything dark, most of the time it has been veiled by religion to hide its true purpose and its true meaning. So once we have that established, we understand that Solomon in the Bible, he used the 72 Goetia to build his temple. So once again, we understand Solomon to represent carbon. So if Solomon represents carbon and he used the 72 Goetia to build the temple, which was, the greatest of the time, how can we put this together and make sense of it in terms of what we are dealing with today and how we can utilize this energy? Well, first and foremost, we know that that 72 number is significant. The 72 is significant because 72 is 36 times 2. Well, what does the 36 represent, right? And yes, King Solomon breaks down to 144, which is 72 times 2. So we got 36, then we got the 72, then we got the 144. All these are significant, right? Because they all break down to the number 9. Whether it's 36, whether it's 72, whether it's 144. If you reduce all those down into a single digit, it breaks down to the number 9. And we know that that is the highest vibration. What's up, Ross? Of course, what's up, Grins? Yeah, I think I shout out everybody already. I'm trying to do a lot of things at once. So the 36. How does the 36 make sense? Well, we know once we study astrology, we have the 36 deacons. So that's the first thing. So the 36 is significant because the 36 represents the 36 deacons of astrology, or the zodiac rather. Because essentially the tarot, for those who study the tarot, we know that each zodiac sign has 3 cards that are denoted to it. So Aries has 3 cards, all the way to Pisces. So we know there's 12 zodiac signs. 12 times 3, because there's 3 cards each for each zodiac sign. 12 times 3 gives you that 36. So that's the first thing. The 36 deacons correlate to the 3 cards that correlate to each zodiac sign. Then, once we go to the 72, we know that the 72 breaks down to the 72 dimensions of the third eye. So you can say the third eye has 72 eyes. So when we think about the all-seeing eye, what makes the all-seeing eye universal is because it has 72 dimensions to it. So essentially, your third eye, which is the pineal gland, has 72 dimensions. So whenever we're talking about anything spiritually related, you are viewing it through a spiritual lens of one of those 72 lenses or dimensions of the third eye. Then, of course, once we get to the 144, we know that the 144 is significant when we read the book of Revelations, the 144,000, right? Those who are chosen, the chosen 144,000, right? And we know all this is symbolic to actual science. So we got 36 times 2, which gives you 72. Then when you multiply 72 times 2, you get the 144. All this is talking about magic. All this is talking about the third eye. All this is talking about is astrology and the zodiac and all of the things that we talk about here anyway. So all the things we talk about here anyway is signified through numerology. So the more we understand the numerology, the more we understand the science behind it. Now, as said earlier, whether we're dealing with the 36, whether we're dealing with the 72, whether we're dealing with the 144, they all reduce to a single digit of the number 9. And we know the 9 to represent the highest vibration. Not the fastest vibration, the highest vibration. The fastest vibration is a number 5, which correlates to the planet Mercury. And we know Mercury is the fastest moving planet. But 9, if we take it to astrology, breaks down to, or the planet that correlates to 9 is the energy of Mars. And we know Mars is where the demons are, right? Mars represents the warrior spirit, but Mars can also represent the plane where the Martians are, and the Martians can be termed the demons, right? And yes, of course, Dank Wizard, the 72, Shem Ham Sharaf. I'm saying it wrong, but I know what you're speaking about. It's a Hebrew word, and it's 2 different ways, because also for those who may not know, those who are a part of the Church of Satan, that's the word that they use. So they don't say Hail Satan. They say, Shem Hemmer, let me make sure I'm saying it right. Again, I don't want to confuse anybody. Shem Ham Pereth. All right, that's just what they say. It's a code. It's a code, basically, right? So they don't say hell, Satan, they say that instead, which is a Hebrew word. And we already know how deeply connected the Hebrew alphabet is with astrology and numerology, so on and so forth, right? You got 10 planets, you got 12 zodiac signs, 10 plus 12 gives you 22, and there are 22 Hebrew letters. There are 22 paths of the Kabbalah, and there's 22 paths of the clip-off, right? So that's where the 22 is significant. So we see it don't matter how we're dealing with these numbers, they all break down or come back to self. And this is why the knowledge of self is wrapped up around numerology, astrology, and the Kabbalistic teachings, the Hebrew alphabet, the clip-off, and of course, now that we're speaking about the 72 Goetia, all this is talking about our dimensions. If we're talking about the 33, Jesus dying at 33, once you add that 22 to the 11 Sephiros, because we know the 22 paths of the Kabbalah are connected by the 11 Sephiroth, Kether, Chokmah, Binah, Doph, so on and so forth. You got 11 orbs. So when you add the 22 to the 11, that gives you the 33. And that's why the 33 is significant. So no matter what story we read, this is talking about the knowledge of self. So the knowledge of self is very heavily shielded and veiled when we read all these ancient texts. So of course, you're not going to be able to read these things and interpret it literally. We have to go to the science, we have to go to the mathematics. So that's why we have astrology, numerology, the Kabbalah, the Hebrew alphabet, to decode all of these things that are veiled in secrecy. So if we want to understand the secrets, we have to study these things. And not just study these things, we have to commit these things to memory. So you have to commit these trees of life to memory. You have to commit these trees of death to memory. So the astrology, the numerology, all these things have to illuminate from within for it to make sense. Because you may be reading the Bible, you may be reading some type of ancient text, and something comes to you because you have committed it to memory, right? And of course, I have a Goetic tarot deck, right? So let me actually show you guys a little bit of this, right? Because so the only tarot readings I do at this point come from the Goetia. So I don't use a Book of Thoughts no more. I don't use any other tarot deck. The only tarot deck that I use is this Goetic deck. So this goes with me everywhere I go, right? So let me actually show you some imagery of this Goetic deck, which was a gift. Like, this isn't something that you can walk into a store and buy. So this is unbuyable, right? So you cannot buy this. So this was a gift to me and I appreciate it, right? So let me actually show you a couple cards so that we have a better understanding, so I can show you some actual imagery on the card so we can get a better understanding. So I'm going to show you the King Solomon card, because the King Solomon card correlates to the magician, right? So let me actually show you that card right now before we get too heavy into it. So just to bring it all home so that we see there's so many ways to work with this magic. It all depends on what you are familiar with and what you are comfortable with. Everybody isn't a tarot reader. Everybody isn't an astrologer. Everybody is not a numerologist, right? But everybody is something. Everybody does something in the divination arts. And if you do not do anything in the divination arts, then you can begin to practice what is most comfortable to you. See, Hebrew came easy to me. Like, if I try to learn any other language, it's a challenge. But Hebrew came easy to me. So the fact that the Hebrew was correlated to the astrology and the numerology was a bonus for me, because that came easy to me. For some people, Spanish may come easy to you, or Latin or Greek. It may be a different language. So you have to discover what comes easy to you. Like, it was easy for me to, get into the numbers and astrology. I've been into astrology since I was a teenager for mundane reasons. I just wanted to see who I got along with and who I didn't get along with. It was mundane as a teenager. I never knew that it was actually way deeper than that. I never knew. So studying all these things as a teenager, I was just doing it for mundane reasons. But because I kept it going, I started to discover newer dimensions and deeper dimensions. Like, oh, this is a lifelong study. So as a teenager, I'm just looking at it for mundane reasons. But as an adult, I'm like, okay, this is actually a lifelong study, right? So let me actually show you a couple cards here. Okay, the very first card that came out is King Solomon. All right, so here we go. So you see King Solomon here. And there's also a different card as well. So you see on the side it says King Solomon. and it says a magician, right? You see the magician right there, says King Solomon right there. And he is controlling the weather, right? So let me make sure y'all can see this, because these cards are like holographic as well, so that's why you see it like that. So this isn't a traditional deck. That's probably better right there. Let me show you an additional card as well. Here's King Solomon in a different angle. All right. So here you see he's mixing up a brew. Let me get it a little closer. So you see he has a gang of demons behind him, right? They grabbing on him, but he put up that ring, right? He got his hand up, keeping them all at bay, cooking up that potion, and they want that shit, right? See, this gives us a very good dimension or a very good perspective of how you actually work with these darker spirits, right? So he has them tamed, right? So they're not taking over him. They're not controlling him. He has them exactly where he wants them, and he's actually cooking up a brew to feed them. And that's why I speak about, you have to have an offering, even if it's yourself, even if it's a part of you, because they are attracted either that to the blood or the plants, whatever it is, depending on who you're working with or what energy you're working with. So you see there, they want to literally rip him apart, but they cannot because he's veiled, he's shielded. That's also the symbol of Solomon on the right-hand corner or left hand, depending on how the camera is turned, right above that 82. So that's the seal of Solomon, and there he is. Let me go back to the other form. So he has his same potion in his hand, and now he is manipulating the weather or the angelic forces. Why? Because you have the lesser keys of Solomon, then you have the greater keys of Solomon. So in this image, these are the greater keys of Solomon. This is when he's controlling the angelic realm because he's aiming his powers above. Then on this one, he's working with the darker spirits. All right, so that's why we have the lesser keys as well as the greater keys, and here's a depiction of it. And in both, he has a magical potion that he whipped up himself, utilizing his own magic to manipulate the currencies to his favor. Right? He's also veiled. He has a hood on because all the demons like to attack behind the head, for those who may not know that, because the behind the head is where the unconscious mind is, and that's where we hear voices and all that. So the unconscious mind is where all those crazy things happen, right? So he has that veil. That's why he has the hood on. He also has a very long beard to keep himself grounded, right? So when you see the older men, especially the magicians with a long beard, that's to keep them grounded to the earth plane. And of course, you see his eyes are illuminated. You don't see his irises, you just see all white eyes. Okay? So just to give a quick perspective of what we're working with here, right? And some of this imagery, I don't even think I can show on YouTube. Somebody may report the video, right? So some of this imagery is real sinister. So I can't show every card. I got to be real conscious about what I show here. I think this would be cool. Here's Lucifer, right? Lucifer with the black sun. For those who want to send a black sun, the Girion, who are Kabbalistically studied up. And of course, that is the seal of Satan, or the seal of Lucifer, rather, right? The seal of Lucifer. So again, I just want to show this very quickly. Here's another image of Lucifer coming out of the grave, ascending to the heavens. So if you get a tarot reading from me, this will be the deck that I use, right? Tap you directly into the Goetia, the 72 dimensions of the Goetia. And let me show you this. This is the symbol. So you see the flower of life. If you can see that, the flower of life is behind it, and you see this. So if you were studying the tree of life, you would actually know exactly what this means. And of course, this has Hebrew letters. I don't know if you can see the Hebrew letters. Let me see if I can turn it at a certain angle. So there's Hebrew letters. I'm not sure if you can, there it is, if you can see it. There's Hebrew letters at every path right there. So all this becomes understandable once we commit it to memory, right? Because if you see something like this and you haven't committed it to memory, you're not sure what it means. You got to go back to your notes, right? But once you have it committed to memory, you know exactly what to do instantaneously, right? So I just want to give this one more time. Just look at, here's Solomon working with the greater keys, and here's Solomon working with the lesser keys. All right. So I'll put these up for now. So going deeper into it. So as we see, Solomon has access to the demonic world and the angelic world. So it's not that that's why I was saying earlier in the video, it's not that I necessarily have a preference for the dark, because we also can work with the light. So we can work with the dark or the light. So it ain't about having a preference. It's all about you do what you need to do based on what you are trying to accomplish. So if you need angelic forces to accomplish a certain task, then utilize the angelic forces. If you need the demonic forces to accomplish a certain task, then utilize the demonic forces. Because as King Solomon, because King Solomon represents us all. It just represents carbon. It represents the third eye. It represents all the dimensions we have access to, all our psychic abilities, right? So our psychic abilities allow us to not just communicate with the darker arts, but also the lighter arts or the angelic arts. Now, this is different though, for other people that communicate with angels and all that, they're not working with the angelic spirits the way King Solomon works with the angelic spirits. So we're not just talking about invoking an angel or an archangel to communicate with you or send you messages or your higher self. That's all watered down. So you see, he had to utilize a magical potion to even activate his power. So-called angelic people are often the most arrogant. It's because it's watered down. Anything that makes you more arrogant, you realize that there's a flaw. You see, King Solomon didn't have a lot of arrogance. I think his power was connected to his hair. Once he cut off his hair, he lost his power. But again, we don't have to get into that. There's a lot of religious people. The most arrogant people tend to be religious, tend to be angelic. But you would think, okay, well, why would an angel make someone arrogant? Why would an angelic force make someone more egotistical, essentially? So basically, they're more so inflated in their own ego. So why would angelic forces make somebody more egotistical versus the demonic forces? You would think the demons would make someone more egotistical, but that's not the case. People are more arrogant and egotistical working with the angelic forces. And the demonic people who work with demons tend to be more humble. Right? The darker arts tend to make a person more humble, right? Because you don't really see too many people just rushing for the spotlight and they're on the dark side. And I said this before in my videos. It's the ones on the dark side isn't committing all the crimes out here. All the people that make the world a fucked up place, they're probably not working with demons. They're probably not working with King Solomon. If you go into their home, they probably have an image of Jesus on the wall somewhere. They're probably religious. So it seems to me like the people who actually work with the darker arts are more humble. They're not out here causing chaos in the world. All the people that's causing chaos in the world is not because they're working with demons. And we only read that in stories, but we're not seeing that happen in real life. I cannot remember the last time a killer or something or a murderer, they ran up in their house and they saw they're a demon worshiper or they were a satanic worshiper. They were making blood sacrifices. That rarely ever happens. Most of the time it's regular people doing regular shit, but they're religious and they are working with angelic spirits. It seems to me like angels wreak more havoc on the world than demons. The proof is out there. There's very few stories of people, they bust in their house and they saw all type of altars and shit and paganism and all that. That's not really happening. These are just so-called regular people working with angelic spirits. Why is that? Why is there so much corruption in religion in the church, in the temples, in the synagogues? Why is all the corruption in there in the Catholic Church, messing with the kids and all that? Why is all the corruption with the angelic forces, but the demonic forces still stay secret and veiled? We ain't really out here doing nothing to nobody because we're trying to master self and be more of an individual, be more responsible. We're actually trying to be more responsible. We're trying to be more refined. We're not trying to be less refined. And that's why the comment was made earlier. It seems to me like the angelic forces make people really go out of their morals and tend to do shit that they probably wouldn't do. It seems to me like the angelic forces does that. Why? Why does angels really cause people to do all this crazy shit? Again, you take away the angels, the world would be great. You see, as weird as that seems, if you take away the angelic forces, the world would be great. Because again, it's not a bunch of demons causing havoc, doing anything to nobody. Because again, you're not going to run up in nobody's house and they have a image of Satan and they're killing shit. It's not really happening like that. There's a reason for that, because when you work with the darker spirits, they're not promoting you to do shit like that. Why? Because it's more about you. What are you trying to accomplish for you, for your life, for your own soul force, not what you want to do to someone else, right? Then you have a lot of people that work with darker spirits, when they want to harm people, or do something crazy to people, but most of the time, they're not really with that. So this again, coming from somebody who has worked with all 72 of the demons. So I've worked with every single one of them. I have notes, I have background. So this is someone who has experienced. Now, one time that I worked with Goetic spirits that they made me want to do something crazy to somebody or harm anybody. Did it cause a couple arguments? Yeah, but that was on me. So you probably shouldn't work with this energy if you're around other people, because it may ricochet and cause other people to come at you crazy. But again, you can just step outside, go into the woods, be alone and do this, and you will be fine. But again, the most that has ever happened is an argument. No hands and feet was put on nobody. But again, when we see all the craziness in the world, people who are taking lives, people who are causing damage to people, lifelong damage, people who are going to jail for crazy amounts of time, these are not demon worshipers, these are not devil worshipers, right? Angels really are not that nice. I really don't want to blame it strictly on the angels, because it's a little deeper than that. So I'm not just going to just throw all the angels under the bus like they're just madness. It's more so it's the veil. It's the veil of what they represent, just like Christianity. Christianity has nothing to do with what's really going on, right? What do I mean? Let me make this very clear. Because you can say Christians are followers of Jesus, right? But if you look at the average Christian, they're not doing anything Jesus-like. There is nothing Jesus-like about the average Christian out here, even though they are followers of the word of Christ. But how many of them are activating their Christ consciousness? They don't even know what that means or how to unlock it. They're based off of, do unto others as you have, do unto you. Like, again, they're not teaching anything in that church. They're just reading the Bible, but they interpret it however they want to interpret it. Why? Because it's connected to the system. It's connected to the government. It's connected to those who remain veiled. Meaning, this is why churches don't have to pay taxes. And I'm sure it's like that for temples and synagogues. They do not have to pay taxes. Why not? I believe it's the 501c3, the tax code, right? They are tax exempt. Why are they tax exempt? Meaning whatever money that they collect, because they make sure to pass around that bucket, or whatever tool that they use, they're getting money every time. So whether you can have church service every day of the week. You can have a different service every day of the week, then they're collecting money every day of the week. So if they don't have to pay taxes, where's all that money going? Right? Why is there so much corruption? Why is it always some shit that's going on that shouldn't be going on? Right? Because people use that as a veil to do their wickedness. So that's why, again, I don't want to put it strictly on the angels. People use religion as a veil to do their wickedness. So wickedness is done behind the veil of religion. So this is why when you're dealing with demon worshipers or devil worshipers, they don't have a veil to shield that dark shit. They don't have a veil. So that's why they ain't really doing that. You can't say, oh, I did it because the devil made me. You don't really have a veil, because people already expect the devil to be wicked and sinister. The devil was tempting you, the devil was tempting you. You don't really have a veil to stand behind, right? But when you are religious, you have a veil to stand behind. You're going to use a Bible or whatever book. Again, I don't want to just make it strictly about one religion or one book. You're going to use whatever you have to shield what you're really doing. So when you do not have a shield, you just have to be refined. You have to be exactly who you are. So when you are on the left hand path or when you are in the dark, you have no shield. You just have to be exactly who you are. And so that's what the world sees. The world sees you for exactly who and what you are. Working with demons is like training for martial arts. You can definitely say that because it's to purify you. It's not to make you more demonic. It's not to make you more wicked. It's to purify you. Why? Because that's exactly what carbon does. Carbon is used as a purifier. Carbon is used as a purifier. When you purify water, water is being purified by carbon. Carbon is the ultimate purifier. That's why it also connects with the energy of Capricorn as well as Saturn. You know, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and we know Capricorn correlates to the devil. But the devil represents the purifier. That carbon purifies. So that's why when you work with the dark arts, it purifies you because that is the nature of carbon. So somehow 666 has become demonic and wicked, but that is the very thing that purifies you. We are purified by carbon, somehow it has become negative. Purposely to keep you away from the purification because they don't want you purified. They want you just going around in circles so that they can extract resources from you. Because if you are completely purified, no one can take resources from you that you don't want to give in and of yourself. So when you are constantly purifying yourself, working with the left hand or working with the dark, working with Satan, Lucifer, the goetic spirits, whatever it may be, they are purifying you to be more of who you are in your original sense, not giving you a free pass, rather to do all this craziness. So once again, all the craziness in the world is not from the demon worshippers, the devil worshippers, the Satanists, and all that. They're not the ones causing the madness, right? The madness is caused for those who do it in secret, who can shield themselves from it, so that they don't get prosecuted, that they invade the law like they invade the taxes. All this is secretive. All this is plotted and planned by governments and those who are in power. So it's one big system that allows all this to happen. You don't have a system when you're on the left-hand path. When you're working with demons, there is no system that's going to back you. If you do any of that, you're just going to go straight to jail. There is nothing backing you. You can't say, okay, I'm riding with Satan. That's going to get you out of jail. It's not going to get you out of jail. That's not going to. Nobody's going to give you a pass. Or you worship demons. All right, you get out the car. We ain't worried. That's not going to happen. You don't have that. But those who do have those type of connections, because they are a part of the government or religion, whatever it is, those who really have those connections, they can get away with these things. So because we don't have any protection, you have to create your own protection, but you're not creating your own protection to get away from anything. You're creating your own protection because all these things are mysterious for a reason. If they want to keep you out of this, they're going to make it dark, demonic, and they say, okay, well, Satan is tempting. Satan is not tempting anybody to do anything. That's a lie. Because again, we just realized, okay, well, where is Satan in the angelic plane? They said Satan was cast out of heaven, or Lucifer rather, right? So if Lucifer was cast out of heaven, why do you think that is? Why did Lucifer fall? You see, this is a real story that nobody's going to tell you. Why do you really think he was cast out? If we now understand that that's the source of all the madness, all right? If that is the source of all the madness, why was it cast out? Exactly, right? Yeah, as soon as it get deep, right? But we ain't gonna stop. I'll just put it a little closer so y'all can still hear me. Why was Lucifer cast out if he was just so wicked and sinister and demonic? Exactly. So not only was he able to work within the chaos, he's actually pure. Lucifer did not belong in heaven. See, that's the real deal. Lucifer did not belong in heaven because he did not fit. See this shit? Exactly. Exactly, right? You need two motherfuckers to do. You need two people to do one building? Of course you do, right? Of course you do. Of course you do, right? Of course you do. You need two people for this one space? Of course you do. What exactly is a right-hand path? People say it's for religious people. Then there's a comparison between Set and Osiris. Set being conservative and Osiris being for world evolution. Yes, the right-hand path is to assimilate into the divine being. That's what the right-hand path. The right-hand path is if you want to remain a slave, if you want to be under the demiurge. So the right-hand path is you being under the demiurge, because you're not under the God force, you're under the demiurge. So you are assimilating or still worshiping something that is above you. You are basically not saying, I am not the supreme being. So the right-hand path is, I am not supreme, there is something above me. And that's what most religious people think, that something is above them. But is that really what they think? See, I question that as well. Because if they really think that, why would they be producing all this madness in the world? Why would they produce so much madness if they feel like they are subordinate to another deity that's supposed to be holy and pure? If you're subordinate to something holy and pure, how does that work? How are you under something that's holy and pure, but you're creating so much madness in the world? So it's all secretive, it's all veiled. It's all to just keep your mind going in loops and loops and loops and loops and loops till you get nowhere. That's what that's doing. It's just going to keep it going in circles and circles and circles and circles, not making any sense. Right? Exactly. Yeah, there's no worship on the left-hand path. You don't worship the devil. You realize that you are. Exactly, you are the devil, but the devil is not what we think it is. The devil is not what we think based on religion. There is no religious devil. It's all about what is occurring within your own chaos, within your own vessel. And our vessel is multiple dimensions. We have 7 different bodies. The physical body is the lowest body. You got an astral body, you got an etheric body, you got an emotional body. You got all these types of bodies. So there's more than just a physical shell. Exactly. Right? So yeah. So as you see, when you speaking that real shit, it will be resistance. It will be resistance. Right? It's going to be resistance, but we're going to stand tall. We're not going nowhere. We're not going nowhere. We're going to let them do what they do, and they're going to keep going. So yeah, I don't know if y'all know, there is a synagogue right across the street as well. So the demiurge is in full swing. You already know. You already know. You see, it's whenever you speaking real shit. Now, trust me, if I was telling a bunch of lies right now, I would be all good. Because that's all we hear every day. All we hear is lies. Whether it's in the music, whether it's on television, whether it's on radio, lies after lies after lies after lies after lies keep us going in circles. But you open up portals when you tell the truth. When you tell the truth, you open up portals. Truth opens up portals because it has the ability to heal. When you speak the truth, you have the ability to heal. So if you want people to stay poisoned, you got to feed them with lies. And when people are poisoned, you can control them a lot easier. You can't control the people if you have no poison. But again, the carbon removes the poison. The poison is removed based off of the carbon. So whenever you are speaking that carbonated matter into existence that allows people to open up, then you will be faced with resistance. Why? Because that hurts their money, their establishment. And it is what it is, right? So you see, that's why I had to bring out, you see, I brought out those go wet experience, right? I just want people to be clear. You see, when I brought out those go wet experience, your shit started getting crazy, right? That's how it go. Every time I watch an older video to brush up on what's going on, you pop up. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this going. We gotta be in full swing. We gotta be in full swing. We can't slow down, we can't stop. You see it, they ain't stopping. They doing, there's gonna always be resistance, so I can't stop, I can't slow down. I gotta show up every day like they show up every day, right? I gotta show up every day like everyone else show up every day. The higher up you are on the hierarchy, the more you will be challenged. Exactly, because you're supposed to grow. It's like adversity shouldn't affect you anymore after a certain point. And you see, that's why I just stood tall. You see, I didn't get up and go nowhere. So I'm like, what? I don't have anywhere to go. Because when we speak in truth, we're gonna see who stays supreme. We're gonna see who's the last person standing, right? What's up, Tony? Grateful you live, yeah. Again, I'm gonna come as much as I can. That's a pause, right? That's funny. That's funny. I'm gonna show up as much as I can. I'll show up as much as I can. Again, whether it's live, whether it's pre-recorded. But you guys gonna see me every day. If you're on the website, you're gonna get an article every day. You may get multiple articles. You're gonna get a video. If you're a part of YouTube membership, you're gonna get content every day. Again, you can hit me up, and again, if you want me to make a video, I'm gonna make the video, so on and so forth. I appreciate the $13 donation, Phoenix Rising. Salute to the 13th degree. Salute to the 13th degree. I appreciate it. Much love, much appreciation. Y'all already know. So I'm gonna continue to show up. I'm not gonna slow down. Because again, I got a determined idea now. I take a little time. I know I always go, and then I come back. I go and I come back. But it ain't no more of that. We never know how long we have on this planet. We never know how long we're gonna have our health. So I'm like, I can't waste another day. So I'm not wasting no more time. I just want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can every single day. So I'm going to do it. So I'm going to show up, in some form or fashion. I'm going to be showing up every day. In some form or fashion, I'll be showing up. Because why not, right? Because there's not too many places to get the truth. Again, we hear lies all the time, all day, every day, lies. It's not too many people that's really speaking truth from all angles. Right? And that's why I wanted to give y'all the demonstration. So y'all see when I come outside, and this is why I wanted to come back outside. I was doing videos inside for a while. I wanted to come back outside so y'all can see the real chaos. Now, if I was inside somewhere, you see, none of this would be happening, right? But I wanted to come outside and show y'all. See, when you start speaking the truth outside where other people can hear and they can resonate with it, then certain things happen when you're outside, when you don't show that fear. Because anybody can say anything within their own household, but when you come out and you got to deal with the resistance, do you stand tall or do you falter, right? So you see, we stayed put. We stayed on our square. We ain't moved. We ain't doing nothing. Why? Because if you stand on truth, you have nothing to fear. So we're not letting none of that move and motivate. So yeah, that was strategically done to try to throw off the conversation, to throw it off. Some people may have left like, oh, it's too much. That's why I also had the mic. So hopefully it's not too crazy because I actually have the mic. So if I was just using the regular cell phone microphone, it probably would have been ridiculous. So hopefully the mic actually made it a little bit more listenable. So hopefully it wasn't too much. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. But again, we stayed and we're going to keep talking. Occult perspective on COVID. Yeah, I'll get into that in just 1 second. Your works is very precious. Thanks. I appreciate that, Lloyd. So if we're talking about COVID is the ultimate purifier. We were just talking about carbon. COVID is the ultimate purifier. Whenever we're dealing with plagues and diseases, we're talking about the ultimate purifier. Based on the words of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, those who die in the plague go directly to heaven. They are martyrs. Those who die in the plague are martyrs. So you have to keep that in mind. So even though we see like there's like 200,000 people who have died, whenever you die in the plague, you are considered a martyr. And when you are a martyr, you go directly to heaven. So we don't need to have no fear about those who are making the transition during this time. They are martyrs. So they are getting what they are due. So they are martyrs. So we have to always look at the spiritual perspective. This is the ultimate cleansing. This will be a bad year. Next year will be a better year, but then we go right back into a bad year. So this is a bad year. 2020 is a bad year. 2021 will be a good year. Then we go right back into the madness, right? So we're almost done with this year. Trust me, next year will lighten up, but make sure you use next year to the best of your ability, because then the 2022 is going to be right back mad, right? And that's based on the astrology. That's based on the numerology. So you heard it from me. So 2020 was supposed to be bad. Again, that's why 2020 has always been talked about. We've been talking about 2020 for 20 years. People been talking about 2020. But 2020 definitely showed his ass, right? 2020 definitely showed us that this purification is real, right? No one is really safe unless you are putting in that work. Unless you have the spiritual third eye open, right? So that you can see behind the veils. Because if you think this is madness, so many people are dying and people are losing their lives, if you're looking at it from a purely mundane level, it's going to seem like madness. But if you see it from a spiritual perspective, you see what's really going on. Only the spiritually and mentally strong will survive the pandemic. So even if you don't, you still got a one-way shot to heaven. It's like this is truly a blessing. So even if you was a fucked up person, you see, this is how it really works. Even if you was a fucked up person and you died during COVID, you still are being initiated into the heavenly realms. That's just how it is. So even if you was bad here and you died because of a plague, you still are allowed grace. So that's just how it works, right? So even if you check out, you're not going to go to a place that you don't want to be. But again, you got to get that from the spiritual perspective. No church member is going to tell you that. Nobody's going to tell you that, but that's the reality. So even if you check out, you don't have nothing to worry about. So hopefully that eases the hearts of the mind and the minds of those who may be wondering these things. Hopefully that eases your heart and your mind. So if you check out, it ain't no problem. If you survive, it ain't no problem, because next year will allow you to recuperate until we go back into the darkness, right? And trust me, I've never seen this before. I've never seen two motherfuckers at the same time doing this. This has never happened before. But we know we have to open up the portals. What do you think of goddess worship? Yes, erase the importance of the divine feminine. Yeah, I literally just, on my website, I just did I just wrote an article about Satanism 101. So if you are a part of the website, you can check out that article right now. I just wrote an article about Satanism, and that is incorporating the divine feminine. But let me reiterate it. So let me answer your question directly. So yes, has the divine feminine been taken out of the equation? Absolutely. To throw things off. That's why we see so much recklessness and so much madness here, because there is no divine feminine principle. I'm not going to say there is no divine. Of course, you have women who's holding it down, so I'm not going to say it's not in existence. But in terms of the spiritual worship, right? When we're talking about Christianity, where is the woman? When we talk about Islam, where is the woman? When we talk about Judaism, where is the woman? The only place we see women, I believe, is in the Catholic religions with the saints. But other than that, there's really no women. That is strategic. Why? It's the reason why we are in a patriarchy versus a matriarchy. A patriarchy is male dominant. A matriarchy is woman dominant, right? We have a matriarchy within a patriarchy. What do I mean by that? If we study the arts of hip-hop is a matriarchy. What do I mean by that? I'm not talking about because it's female rappers. I'm talking about the whole energy of hip-hop. It is a matriarchy. Even though we are in a patriarchic society, even if may have said that wrong, right? There's a reason for this. This is all spiritual. Meaning divine feminine is active, it's just veiled. The divine feminine is active, she's just veiled. Meaning you have to discover her on your own. We have to discover the divine feminine on our own. It's not going to be somewhere you can go and find it. You're not going to be able to go and find it anywhere. It has to come from within you. The divine feminine is shielded within us. That's how we activate our spirituality. That's how you rise the Kundalini. Kundalini is a feminine serpent. Most people don't know that. So whenever we're talking about the rising of the Kundalini, that's talking about a feminine serpent. It's not talking about a masculine serpent. It is a feminine serpent. Kundalini is a feminine serpent. Right? There's no masculinity involved in that. Whenever we're talking about meditation, whenever we're talking about yoga, that's all passive. You have to activate your feminine principle to even do anything spiritual. You have to activate the feminine principle. Okay, we good. I had to turn off my notifications. It's just going crazy. You cannot do anything spiritual without the feminine principle. Why? Because the feminine principle is always veiled in secrecy. So it's not that it's not there, it's just veiled in secrecy. It's only for those who are worthy of capturing that energy. Right? You can even ask any woman, the male that she's with or the man that she's with, he has to be deserving of her. It's the same thing. You have to be deserving of the feminine principle. It's not just something that you automatically have access to. Like you can just go up and touch it. Like you can't just go up and touch a woman that you don't know. You can't just do that. You have to have access. You have to actually dig deep to the surface. You have to go beyond the surface actually to even have that type of access to a woman at all. It's the same way with the feminine principle when it comes to spirituality. So whenever you want to unlock your psychic abilities, anything that is extracurricular or anything that is extra physical, you have to do so through the feminine principle. And that's why Satan or Lucifer is a light bearer. That's why when you see the Baphomet, it has breast, right? The Baphomet has breasts representing androgyny. Because it's not just about the masculine, it's not just about the feminine, they have to be incorporated. So as a man, we are not here to embody masculinity, just strictly masculine. We're not here to just be strictly masculine. Women are not here to be strictly feminine. We are here to embody our opposites. That's why you had the Amazons. You had warrior women. You had the Amazons, so they're not just embodying the feminine principle, they're also warriors. And with the men, that's why you had the priest. That's why you have the pastors and the priests and all that, those who speak from the higher chakras, those who have connection to the divine. So from a male perspective, to become more feminine, you have to get connected with the divine. With the woman, they have to become more warrior. And then again, we see that already. Women have always, I've seen warrior women my whole life. And I'm sure all of you have. These women are more warriors than the men sometimes. We've all seen it. It's like women doing impossible shit. Like, yo, how the fuck did you make that happen? We've seen these women everywhere just making shit happen. With like, how the fuck is this happening? Like, women have been that warrior spirit has been in the women, right? That's why, they don't tolerate the bullshit either. Like, so the women are into their warrior because they are taught that from birth. They're taught, to be independent, to make sure that you have your own, to make sure that you are honorable. They have their feminine principles intact. From the male perspective, it can go either way, right? It all depends on how your upbringing was. So it can go either way. But of course, most males are not taught how to embody their femininity because you're not supposed to be feminine, right? However, feminine is not about like your acts or being like a woman. It's about being spiritual. To activate your spirituality, you have to tap into your feminine principle. But you're not really going to run into a lot of males that's going to teach you that or who's going to explain it to you from that perspective. It's just about being purely masculine. But if you are 100% masculine, you're going to be reckless. It's just too much. That produces arrogance. That produces pride. that produces recklessness if you're just 100% masculine. And if you're 100% feminine, it's just passiveness. So we have to be passive as well as active. What are the key attributes to be aware of to determine the deity that rules your city? Yeah, I've been talking about that for a while, right? I may need to offer that as a service, because I've been speaking about you have to know who is the ruler of your city, right? I've been talking about that for quite a while now, and so let me explain how that even came to me, so people can understand where I come from when I say that, right? It came from me traveling. Like the more cities that I touched down at, I realized that this is because I was in tune with my feminine principle. Like spirits was coming to me as I was traveling through the country. As I was traveling through the country, it's like spirits is coming to me. Like I've been, hey, write this down. It's like, look this up. Like, oh, this is actual deity. Like it's just shit that I knew nothing about. Like they're just coming to me. Like, so as I'm going city to city to city to city, these spirits is then, of course, once I made it to the East Coast, I met the aliens. So we know California is the root chakra of the planet. And that's probably why I speak about the demons and the dark side more, because I'm just on the West Coast. So on the West Coast, and of course, Satan rules the deserts. So that's probably why I talk about the dark side all the time, because this is Set's territory. The desert is Set's territory, right? So this is just when I went to the East, which was completely different. Then I got contacted by aliens. And again, I'm not talking about no crazy shit. Aliens that came from Saturn, right? Aliens that live inside of Saturn, the internal planes of Saturn, right? So I'm like, okay. I started at Devil's Gate. For those who have been following me for a while, you know about Devil's Gate, right? With Aleister Crowley, Devil's Gate, Hollywood, L. Ron Hubbard, Jack Parkinson's, that I revealed all that history, right? So I just simply started to study the background of the city. What makes LA LA? Because I was in LA, of course, right? Peace 305 Capricorn. I was in LA, so I wanted to know the history. How did Hollywood come about, right? So by the time I made it to New York, I'm like, oh shit, the aliens. This is where the aliens come from. That's why they're completely different out there, right? Like New York made me step up my fashion game, because you got to evolve with the spirits. Like when you're in the West Coast, it ain't really about that. You know what I mean? It ain't about being fresh and fly all the time. There's it's a bunch of homelessness in the West Coast and all that. So of course you're dealing with the sun. You know what I mean? So it ain't. I'm not saying that people are not fresh, but it ain't mandatory like that. When I went to New York, it's like everybody was leathered up. Everybody was looking. I'm looking every direction. I'm seeing freshness. So he's like, you just adapt. Then it gets cold. It's cold as fuck. It's cold as fuck on the west, or not the west, the east. You know what I mean? So it's just a completely different mentality. Like you can sleep on the beach on the West Coast. You can't do that shit on the East. You can't be in New York. You ain't trying to be outside in the winter. You ain't trying to be outside in the winter. So you got it. So even the drug addicts, they still got to make shit happen. You know what I mean? They're not playing around either. So it's a whole different mentality. It's a whole different energy. So once you have experienced all of that, you realize, okay, well, what causes that? What is the science behind that? Like, okay, this is actually spiritual. So there's a oversoul, basically, to make it more interesting. It's called a oversoul. Every city has a oversoul. Every city has a spiritual nature to it, that if you tap into it, you basically become, you can say, the word of the streets or the spirit of the streets, meaning you become the physical embodiment of that oversoul in real time. When you embody the spirit of your city or the oversoul of your city, you become a living embodiment of that oversoul in the flesh. You become a vessel of that oversoul when you actually tap into it, again, which takes feminine energy. You need feminine energy to tap into that, right? So I'm sure like women tap into this naturally, whether they realize it or not, but they tap into it naturally. The males, like, we have to dig a little deeper, because we're like, okay, it's not our first nature to do shit like that. We're automatically looking at the visuals of all cities, and wherever we at, we're looking at the visuals. But you got to look in between the spaces to realize what's really going on, like what influences the people. It's not about what the people are doing. What is influencing the people to do what they do? And every time you go to a different city, the astrology changes, because based on where you are in the world, the astrology changes. So like the sun may be, let's just say in Libra, for example, the sun is going to be in Libra, but the houses changes. The house cusp change based on what city you're in. So there's a different house cusp in Vegas than LA. Then there's a different house cusp. The 12 houses, again, this astrology language, right? All that changes depending on where you are, depending on your location. So as you navigate through the country, the house cusp change. And that determines what is what and how things work. It's based on astrology, it's based on numerology. Did the beings from Saturn have a negative energy? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Like for me, I can just go back into the experience. Like for me, what it did for me, because again, the deity's name is Tan, so that's why it's called Manhattan, because that's where I was. I was in Manhattan, right? So Manhattan is the city of Tan. Like they broke it all down to me. Just zip, 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 zip. This is the city of Tan. We're from Saturn. Like New York is based upon the orbit of Saturn. This is all zip, 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 zip. So when I look around, I look at the buildings cover up the sun because the buildings are so high. So you don't even get that much sun. I'm like, oh, this is why. It ain't because the people just did this. This is just how it works. And there's a reason why, New York is also a mob city. Like all this is based on the energies of Saturn. So you can say Saturn rules over the city of New York if we're talking about astrology-wise. Not because a person did it, because that's just the oversoul of the city. So you can say different deities come from different planets. That's why you have Martians, you have the Saturn spirits, you got like every planet has, even the Earth has infernal spirits. And that's what we call the Jinn and the Goetia. So even the Earth has subterranean beings. Sometimes they're called the machine elves. For those who are into psychedelics, you meet the machine elves when you have psychedelic trips, which are the subterranean deities of the Earth. So each dimension has a subterranean plane. That's just how it works. But again, all this is feminine energy. Brooklyn is a spiritual gateway. Like every city is a spiritual gateway. You know what I mean? It's not exclusive to certain cities. Like every city has a portal to a different dimension. Like Devil's Gate Dam is a portal to hell, basically. So if you research Devil's Gate Dam, it is a portal to hell. So I'm like, oh, is it really a portal to hell? Let me find out. So when I went there, then again, I already did the video. When I had the conversation with Ishu, I'm like, yo, this shit is crazy. I'm like, oh, this is dark arts. Why? Because the native people of that land called that area, it was bad luck. They say, oh, this has bad energy. So that made me question, if the natives say that this area is bad or has bad energy, that means they didn't have nothing to do with it. I'm talking about the Indians, right? They didn't have anything to do with it. If they saying that this is bad luck or this is bad, that means did they make it bad? What makes it bad? I mean, oh no, they're talking about the original people of these lands. Remember, the Indians are not from America. Indians are from India. People just don't know history, right? Elijah Muhammad told you though, right? Indians are from India. They are not from the Americas. They are not the original people. The original people are the Olmecs. That's why we don't know nothing about the Olmecs. All we have is those Olmec heads. We don't even know the names of the deities. If you type in Olmec deities, they give you some weird ass names. It ain't even the original names. They don't know because it was destroyed. So the only way to get that information is to go within. So I'm like, oh, so this was an Olmec. This is an Olmec thing. If the natives or the Indians are saying, oh, this is bad luck, well, who made it bad? Oh, it must have been the Olmecs. Because from the Olmecs, then you get the Mayans and the Aztecs and the mixed texts, then the Toltecs, so on and so forth. All that comes after, right? All that comes after. But again, most people have no idea about history because it's veiled. We ain't learning none of this in school. So most people don't know. Most people think the Indians were the first people in the Americas, right? However, once you are able to put it into real perspective, you're like, okay, I see what's really going on. That means the Olmecs have more power available? Yes, that is very true. Because they are the builders of the Americas. The Olmecs built America. And the Olmecs, if you look at how they look, you can tell that they don't look like Indians. Olmecs don't look like Indians. Indians look like they're from India. The Olmecs look like what you see here already. So that's why I'm like, well, okay, we ain't come from Africa. That's how I started to put that shit together. I'm like, because they told us that we from Africa. I'm like, no, we're not. We're actually right here. We didn't come over here on a boat called Jesus. That doesn't even make any sense. If people were already in America, why are they shipping people from Africa? There's people already here in America. So of course they're going to tell you a lie. You came from a different continent when there's people already here. And they just enslaved the people that were already here. And it was more than Indians. It wasn't just Indians here. It was Indians in different cultures, as we know, Aztecs, Mayans, so on. And they say, what did they say? They said the Mayans just disappeared, right? That's the official story. That Mayans, they just disappeared. They don't know what happened to the Mayans. What do you mean you don't know what happened to the Mayans? Who the fuck is just disappearing off the face of the earth? But we already know what happened to the Indians. They killed them with disease, right? The Pilgrims came over, killed the Indians with disease. Then the Mayans just disappear. It doesn't make any sense. But the real history is they were already here putting in the work. They laid the shit down. Then they enslaved you. It just, this, again, it is what it is, right? Are there new gods? If so, how have they revealed themselves to you? Like new gods in terms of gods with new names? Like, what do you mean? They take on new attributes, but they're the same deities. Like, for example, no, you don't have new deities just manifesting out of the nothingness. It's the same deities, but they put on new jackets or new clothes, basically. So, like, whenever we watch movies or whatever, like animes and cartoons and all, these are the same deities. They just have new jackets. Same deities, new jacket. Same principles, new jacket. God of the internet. Well, no, the internet is based on electricity, and electricity is ruled by Aquarius, right? That's an Aquarian energy, and we are in the age of Aquarius. So the god of the internet is Aquarius, because Aquarius rules over electricity and technology. So the techno god is Aquarius, because that's already established. Now, would that be said? Absolutely not. They probably put some new god, but it still will lead you back to Aquarius, or the 11th house. So it's going to lead you back. It's going to lead you back to the same thing, but they just put on new jackets. So once you know the basis, once you know the foundation, you can discover, like, oh, so even if it is new gods, you can still bring it back to the original source. What about Chicago? See, most people don't even know the origins of Chicago. Most people don't know that Chicago was started by an original man. I believe he was Haitian. Chicago was started by a Haitian, so that's why Chicago is the way it is, because that's voodoo or the voodoo. But most people don't know that. Then the waters, there's a lot of dark magic that was taking place in the waters, and we already know Chicago was infiltrated by the mob, and there's a lot of dead energy in those waters, a lot of dead bodies in those waters. So when we look at the craziness of Chicago, that's still spiritual, because it was started with Haitian magic. Most people don't know that, though, right? Most people don't know that. In New Orleans, of course, because that's Haitian magic. New Orleans, and that's all Haitian magic. So when we look at the dark cities, even Detroit, which is where I'm from Detroit. If you look at the founder of Detroit, he looks like a fucking vampire. So when you look at all these cities, these dark spots in the country, there's a reason for it. It's not random. But you got to go back to the origins. But most people don't go back to the origins. So they just look at it now, and they just look at, oh, what's going on. But you got to study the origins. You got to see what energy was laid down. What energy was laid down? All right. I wish there was more information on the Olmecs. You have to pull it out from within. You got to pull it out from within. Ain't nobody gonna tell you. And if somebody do tell you, they had to get it from within. So there is no book. The book is within. We have to read the book of life. So they're there. They're within us. They live through us, and they communicate through us. That's how we have been able to make it this far. But we got to pull it out. We have to get into our feminine principle to pull out that energy. It has to be pulled out from within. That's the only way that we're going to know. But that is the secret. That is the secret of all. Once you connect with the builders of the Americas, that's powerful. But that's why that was completely deleted from American. Like, they don't even, that's like the history didn't even happen. They just completely hit the delete button. Yeah, exactly. What about the Oversoul in Chicago? Again, like it's all, you have to go back to the origins, because the founders of the cities were in tune with the Oversoul. That's why I say go back to the origins, because the founders of these cities were in tune with the Oversoul, and that's what gives every city the theme it has. Every city has a theme, and that theme is based on the Oversoul. And that Oversoul was connected with the founder. That's what makes a person able to found a city in the first place. You got to be in tune with the Oversoul to even found a city on the spiritual side, right? And again, like when you look at the dates of when these cities was founded, like some cities are like 300 years old, some cities are 200 years old, some cities are 100 years old. Here in Vegas, Vegas is young. Vegas was started in the 1900s. You got some cities like Detroit that was started in the 1700s. Then we look at Vegas. Vegas is one of the newest cities. That's why, for those who, that's why people like coming to Vegas, because it doesn't have a lot of negative energy, because it's very new. Of course, the mob came, and started the strip, but the mob isn't really active now here, at least in the way that we know them to be. Like the strip still lives off of dead energy at this point. Like, when we hear about the Las Vegas strip, we're still thinking about the strip from the 90s and the 80s and the 70s when it was really real. It's not that. It's all commercial now. It is completely commercialized. Of course, with COVID, they scanning IDs and taking temperatures, so the vibe is completely different. So they still living off of old rep. The energy that Vegas, what people know Vegas to be, came from that mob mentality, came from the Oversoul. That's why the first casino, I believe, was Benny Siegel, right? I may be saying it. I may be the mobster. Not the rapper, the mobster, where he took his name from, right? The first casino on the strip was the Flamingo. That's spiritual. Also, I believe the first hotel was the El Cortez, like in Vegas at all. So, and that's Spanish, right? And we know, like, the West Coast has a very fluent Spanish history, because it used to be a part of Mexico. It's a whole lot of history that most people just don't know about because they don't have time to study these things, right? But these are the things that free us, that open up our mind, that take us deeper into all of the mysteries of life, the things that actually matter, so that we can implement these things in real time. All right. Yes, I appreciate you adding on about the Detroit history, Dank Wizard. Exactly. Talking about a goblin. All that is dealing with fairies and the machine elves. That's what I mean. Machine elves, fairies, all that comes from the subterranean deities or spirits within the earth. That's where the whole hollow earth comes from. The hollow earth, the subterranean, like all this is just things that we don't get to experience because psychedelics are illegal, right? So most people ain't doing psychedelics. It's illegal. You get, if it's drugs in your system, you can't get a job and all that. So it's like, it's a whole cycle of you don't have access to it. And if you do decide to do it, then you're going to have to live a different type of lifestyle. If you do decide to do drugs, you're going to have to live a different type of lifestyle. If you got felonies on your record, you got to live a different type of lifestyle. You got to go into the underworld. You're forced into the underworld if you decide to learn this history and to do what you do. So you are forced into the underworld because you can't even operate in the commercial realms, right? So if you're really trying to follow this path, it's like you're going to have a whole different life. You're gonna have to live a whole different. You got to live an original life. If you want to study the original culture, you got to live the original life. You got to pretty much let the spirit know that you're serious. That's why I did psychedelics. I'm like, yo, let me do it. That's why I would smoke the weed when I smoke weed. That's why I would do what I do. I'm like, I really want to know what's up. Did that keep me from a lot of opportunities? Absolutely. Right? Does it still affect me to this day based on what I was doing exploring the history? Absolutely. I'm still affected. There's still certain things I can't do. But is it worth it? Absolutely. Because I'd rather know the truth than be led by a lie. But you see, it's a hard ass decision. Your life may be a lot harder than it could be because everyone wants to be comfortable. But if you are seeking the truth, then you don't get to be comfortable like that. But that's just the price you have to pay if you want the reward on the other end, right? The number 8 corresponds with the energy of Saturn, Donald. Also, LSD breaks down to 8 as well. I saw your other comment. LSD breaks down to Saturn. All that deals with the energy of Saturn, and Saturn deals with the energy of Satan. Right? So all that is satanic. But again, satanic isn't negative or bad until religion comes along and tell you it is. We've been in tune with Satan. We've been in tune with the devil. We've been in tune with Lucifer. That's all us. We're just talking about us. We're just talking about carbon. We're just talking about the 666. You know what I mean? It's all mathematical. We don't have to put all the extras on top of it. All right, so that'll be all for today. My phone is about to die. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, if you want to support the website, do so, asharenew.com. If you want to support me, Cash App, Asharenew. And I'll have, the other donations in the description. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll probably do another live stream. And I still have to do more pre-recorded videos. So if you have video recommendations, do so on the community tab. Shout out to all the YouTube members. Again, if anybody wants it, just go to the community tab. Let me know what you want to see. And salute to everybody. Stay focused. Stay satanic. Stay dark. Let the truth lead you on the correct path, whether it's the left or the right, or even the middle path. One hand in the dark, one hand in the light. Just like King Solomon. One hand in the light, one hand in the dark. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. God willing. Peace.